Hello and welcome to this episode of the GrowVC Startup Stories podcast. Today we're talking with Jesper Thomsen from the startup Roozz. Roozz has a particularly fascinating background as the team completed the Startupbootcamp program in Denmark. And Jesper, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself for our audience?
Thank you, Marcus. I'll be happy to. Roozz.com is a startup of 3 people, and we joined the Startup Bootcamp program mid-August here in Copenhagen. And I think we need to turn back time a little bit first to sort of give the background of the company and of course my own background as well. The company was founded by Thomas J.M. Petersen back in 2008 on the belief that it should be much easier to consume and access software. I mean, everyone knows how easy it is to access YouTube or to buy music via iTunes, but the same doesn't really exist when you want to access or consume software and PC games. You got to go through the installation process, whole thing with clicking next, reinstalling, all that stuff. It's not that easy as it should be. And he actually had the belief that there must be a way to do this. And when he shared his thoughts with people in the industry back then, they said, "No, forget it. It's simply impossible." But he couldn't really get rid of this idea, so he pursued it, and he actually managed to get things working little by little. And that's when he took on Andrew, the second employee, a very skilled Russian PhD, and they started working on this. And basically, having worked for this for 2 years, we then joined Startup Bootcamp. And in August this year, and that's actually when I came in, because my background is a little bit unusual, I guess, in this both industry and also sort of in the world of entrepreneurs, if you like, because I actually joined from a Danish company called Maersk, or AP Moller Maersk, which is a very large shipping conglomerate. So I've spent about 12 years in there, doing container shipping, operations, product management, B2B sales strategy, basically been working all across the world. So completely different background, but that's probably one of the things that about this team that we complement each other extremely well, because Thomas and Andrew are both business-minded people, but they're also very technical, and I'm probably certainly more sort of the business person, if you like, in that respect. So I think it actually is a bit of an unusual constellation we have here, but it seems to work extremely well.
Yeah, I guess that's the main point, that it works well. Would you introduce the startup? What is it that Roozz actually does?
Yes, what Roozz does, it's a very sophisticated technology that's behind, and what it can do is convert a big portion of the existing software and PC games out there in the market today. Right now we are on Windows only, and that's also still quite a substantial amount that can convert, because Windows certainly is the bigger chunk today. We expect to be on Linux and Mac by first quarter next year. And we have estimated, based on tests over the last couple of years, that we can convert roughly 40% of all titles out there. And actually, that's a number we're quite proud of, because that still means it's hundreds of thousands of titles that we can convert. And what basically happens is that if you want to convert, let's say, for example, you are a software developer, you have a title you wish us to convert. It could be a 3D piece of software, it could be visualization software of some sort, it could be a business application, it could be a PC game, anything. The thing about Roozz is that it doesn't really have limitation in terms of performance, because what Roozz does is simply run directly on the end user's client. So what we do is then we get the exe file from the developer, either on a disk or through a download. We run it through our converter, through our process that takes 1 to 2 days, and after that it basically runs directly in the browser. So when you as the end user wish to access this PC game or the software application, all you need to do is install our plugin. It's a small 2 megabyte plugin. It's basically like installing Flash or anything. That takes about 20 seconds to install. You only need to do that once. And you simply then click the application and it runs. Whereas today, what you would need to do is find the application, download it, install it, restart your computer sometimes, put in serial key, all that kind of stuff. So it's basically a brand new way of using and consuming PC games and software applications.
And this is very modern in that sense, that when we're talking about cloud computing and the mega trends that are taking over the world, this plays very well into that. How has the reception been to Roozz? What are other people, how have they responded to your offering?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Max. People have actually been quite impressed with the technology behind because, again, going back to the story I told about Thomas 2 years ago, he talked to some very, very clever people in the industry, and they said, "This, don't forget it. This idea is not going to fly. It's just not technically possible." So people who really understand the IT business or industry in particular are extremely impressed. And people who are, say, more on the business side of things are also extremely impressed and very intrigued because it clearly opens up a whole new market here. I would say overall the reception has been quite overwhelming across the board, both from the tickets but also from developers and so on. And we are currently in contact with quite a few customers. We got about 8 to 10 applications running on our site right now, and we got about a handful of applications running in the Google Web Store. People are overall been extremely positive about this. One of the things that we get, first of all, is does this really work? And fortunately, we are able to demo to people that it actually does work. So I would say it's been a very, very positive reception.
Okay, let's rewind a little bit back to the Startup Bootcamp. How did you end up there, and what was the process like?
We ended up there because Thomas believed earlier this year that it was time to speed up the commercialization of Roozz. It comes so far now on the product development, and we need to start sort of doing something about actually going out there in the market and start selling this product. And then he heard about Startup Bootcamp and looked into it further and was quite intrigued by the whole way the Startup Bootcamp was going to run. It was the first time, as you know, that this is actually taking place in Denmark. And he applied for it, and Roozz got accepted. One of 10 teams out of, I think, 145 applicants. So that's quite impressive, actually. And the thought behind it was that instead of sitting in that infamous basement we always talk about that entrepreneurs always seem to sit in, here was a way to basically speed up the commercialization. Get access to a big network, get access to some really, really quality mentoring. And then at the end of the day, or at the end of the program, have an opportunity to present to a large number of investors. And I think we can safely say we were not disappointed by the process. It was 3 fantastic months. There were some really, really high caliber teams there, and there were some really, really high caliber mentors. It were basically the who is who of the Danish, Nordic even, startup scene. People who have done a ton of startups in IT, web, tech, very, very skilled people with some really, really sound advice. And we were so lucky to get 4 mentors attached to our program or to our company that then helped us out over these 3 months. So it was a fantastic experience, and I would highly recommend it, I think, to anyone who finds themselves at the phase that we were in. Basically, where you wanna progress and you wanna accelerate the development of your company, and really sort of trying to get some of the difficult questions asked and answered at the same time, because that's really what they did. They provided a lot of clarity. The mentors, they provided a lot of guidance, and I think we can safely say that we would not come this far had it not been for the Startup Bootcamp program.
Okay, continuing that thought, the process lasted 3 months, and you've been involved for, was it roughly 4 months now?
Yes.
And you've recently reached a very big milestone for you. So could you kind of highlight where you've got to in these 4 months and where you are now?
I think where we have got to, if you look at sort of the commercial side of it, actually getting the products out there, I think we can say that we can safely say we have very, very clear directions, of very clear idea. A good idea of where to head. We know exactly where to focus on, and we know why we are focusing the way we do. We have a marketing PR strategy we think works very well. We have a product that has basically been developed. It's not 100% complete yet, but it's certainly at a stage where we can go out and sell it. I think an IT product you can always develop on, but we've been able to make some decisions. We have basically been able to select what to focus on and deselect what not to focus on. So I would say that those 3 months or 4 months as it is now has probably given us the direction that we may not have had otherwise. I mean, of course, it's hard to say, but looking back and trying to rethink some of the many meetings we had over those months, there were a lot of meetings where we went out and said, okay, this guy or this girl actually